Great, thank you so much, Ned. I'm going to present some work from our neighboring state of Minnesota. Will Bartsch joined the Water Resource Group at the Natural Resource Research Institute at the University of Minnesota Duluth in 2016. Currently, he works across disciplines to help make spatial data more accessible to Minnesota's agencies, organizations, and the public through a variety of online tools. Prior to NRI, he was a research fellow with the Oak Ridge Institute for Science and Education and studied the relationship between water quality and land use in the Great Lakes Basin. Will's going to be presenting on the Minnesota Natural Resource Atlas, making spatial data available. And Will, you have 5 minutes, including any questions.
All right. Well, thank you for that introduction, David. I'm going to be talking to you today about the Minnesota Natural Resource Atlas. As David mentioned, I'm a researcher at the Natural Resources Research Institute, and that's in Minnesota in the United States. So I'm going to start out with the why of why we developed this atlas. Through conversations and meetings with people, organizations, and the public in Northeastern Minnesota, we came to realize that there are many organizations that lack the capacity to effectively use spatial data in their decision-making processes. And that's generally because of the technical hurdles of becoming proficient with desktop GIS or the cost associated with a license. So we wanted to develop a way for them to access spatial data without having to have the skill set or a license for desktop GIS. So we developed an online atlas, and we did it using all open source software. And we did that because it provides us with a fair amount of flexibility for developing the atlas and programming in our own functionality. So the main software we relied on was a Postgres database, a PostGIS extension for that database, GeoServer for serving up the data, and a leaflet mapping application for actually visualizing the data within the browser. We recognized pretty early on that we wanted to make sure to develop a tool that was relevant. And to do that, we decided we needed to engage target end users early and often. So one of the initial things we did with the project was to identify these users, and then we had meetings with them, we had interviews with them to learn more about their decision-making processes and how we might be able to improve them by giving them access to spatial data. After these meetings, we were able to develop an easy-to-use online GIS that's publicly available and free to anyone. It has two main components. It's an interactive mapping tool paired with a comprehensive spatial database. This mapping tool allows users to easily visualize multiple data layers simultaneously, to do basic measurements, and to even perform basic analysis, such as summarizing one data layer within a boundary unit. But perhaps most importantly, as our end users alerted us to, they wanted to be able to share this information. So we programmed in the ability to create static maps, but also the ability to create unique URLs in which they would be able to embed all the information about the layers they had open, any filters they had going, any labels, and information on where they're zoomed into. And they could share that URL with anybody, and they'd be able to look at the exact same map that they were. And because we recognize that natural resource issues don't happen in a vacuum, we provided fairly comprehensive and broad data for the atlas, including 10 different categories and ranging from natural resources and into social and economic data. And we have 450 layers that are easily accessible. So you can find this all at mnatlas.org, and I'm happy to field any questions you have right now. And I'd also encourage you, if you explore the tool and you have any questions or comments or suggestions, please reach out to me. My email is in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen.
Thanks, Will. I'll ask a question. First of all, I want to note I really appreciate the thoughtful approach to connecting with your audience. And I think that there could be a lot that that others around the country, around the world could learn from how you approach that. We have a shared resource between Minnesota and Wisconsin in the St. Louis River estuary. I'm wondering, and I'm about ready to present on some work in Wisconsin. Are there any thoughts about how we could work together on interoperability of our two atlases to maybe make information accessible to those who have to manage the estuary?
Yeah, so one of the things that we're working on right now is we're trying to figure out how to make it easier for people to bring in data from different web services beyond what we're serving up on our own. So I think that's an interesting opportunity where we could make it so that we could incorporate each other's data into our atlases. And we're also looking at the possibilities of expanding across the Great Lakes as an idea. And we've been talking to people throughout the region and looking to see what type of interest there is. So I think there's some good opportunities.
Great. Thanks, Will. We'll keep an eye on the chat, and there may be some questions that come across for you after people have a chance to chew on thoughts for a second.
All right. Thank you, everybody.